Welcome back into the channel, guys. Man with No Game 45 here, and we're going to continue my gear analysis and strategy for the Sorcerer's Tower with my second segment, this time on the rare gear for the tower. But before we get started, just a couple things. If you haven't watched the Uncommon Gears video yet, be sure to do that. You can click the card here to see it. There is one piece out of the Uncommon Gears that is a complete game changer for this tower specifically. So I highly recommend that you check it out to see the strategy that I recommend for dealing with that gear when you run up against bosses who are equipped with it. Also, I had a bit of a rant during the last video about how things have been in MK Mobile lately. I'm going to continue that rant a little bit here to highlight just one specific thing about all of this tower gear. The Sorcerer's Tower and all of the Sorcerer's Tower gear is themed for damage over time to a large degree. Now, the one match condition that has always been consistent in all of the boss fights in Mortal Kombat Mobile is that bosses are immune to damage over time. So basically, in giving us gear that is focused on damage over time, the developers at MK Mobile have consciously made the decision to give us gear that will not be useful to us for at least 2 or 3 characteristics out of almost every gear piece in the boss fights that we'll be fighting. Don't get me wrong, I think that what they've done is going to be extremely effective for the bosses that we'll be facing. But for us, well, it's as though we're entering a knife fight armed with a spork. But that's it. My rant is done, and we are moving on to the rare gear for Sorcerer's Tower. I am very excited about this gear, especially because the Tekokagi is an ancient ninja weapon. Therefore, it is very suiting that our favorite green ninja will be utilizing that weapon for his brutality. Now, given who it's equipped to, it's only fitting that it does give a damage boost against enemies affected by poison. As I've already noted, this isn't going to help us much in boss fights. In fact, it's going to help the bosses do a lot more damage to us, unless we make use of gear, passive, or talents that add either debuff or damage over time resistance. Another important note about this damage boost is that characters like MK11 Jade and Dark Raiden, who reverse poison effects to heal, are still poisoned, so they will still be susceptible to this additional damage. Do not overlook Classic Reptile himself and his passive for canceling out poison damage over time. It will allow you to use any Outworld characters still and be completely immune to this additional damage from bosses equipped with this gear. Now, the percentage chance to blind on Special Attack 1 doesn't seem all that great at just 15%. However, when the piece is fully fused, it will give a 35% chance to apply blind on Special Attack 1, which, as we all know, in the hands of the cheating AI in Mortal Kombat Mobile is going to be more like 70 to 80%. To make matters significantly worse, any of our opponents in the tower equipped with this gear will gain 100% critical damage boost for 5 seconds whenever a blinded opponent misses any attack. That's us, guys. Understanding this, the worst characters for us to possibly have to face wielding this gear are characters that already apply blind on Special Attack 2. For your reference, those characters as diamond cards are all of the Jade characters, Dark Fate Terminator, and Day of the Dead Aaron Black. Again, these characters are going to be a huge problem with this gear because they will be able to blind you on both Special 1 and Special 2, and as soon as you miss a hit, they will do 100% critical hit damage to you for a full 5 seconds. Lastly, this is the highest damage boosting rare for the Sorcerer's Tower with a full 300% damage boost. So in addition to the 100% critical damage boost for 5 seconds, that's going to double any critical hit damage from a boss, beware that this gear will greatly increase boss's damage output. Moving on to our second rare, let's take a look at Shang Tsung's Brutality rare. It has the appropriately badass name of Soul Reaver's King Cobra belt, but does it live up to its moniker? The 15% health boost that you're going to receive at base fusion isn't that exciting, and really, the only 10% chance at base fusion to apply cripple after an opponent has performed a successful special attack or combo ender against you isn't going to be very useful most of the time. Even at full fusion, this rare is very underwhelming. The 25% max health boost is smaller than a lot of other pieces. The 40% chance to apply cripple after a successful special attack or combo ender, well, that's kind of like having Bone Shield in a way, except that it cripples the enemy. So it's not going to do much good for us. In fact, it's the same percentage chance of performing a brutality when you have brutality gear equipped. So think how often you've had times where you keep trying for a brutality and yet it doesn't happen. It's going to be the same thing with this gear with regard to how often it might cripple your opponent, even at full fusion. And then I am completely underwhelmed by the 50% incoming damage over time and dark magic damage reduction. I'm sure it will help, but not nearly enough. The only thing that I see as outstanding about this characteristic is that it will do absolutely nothing for tower bosses. However, this gear is going to be a big problem for players overall, because I think we all know that when it's equipped to a boss, that 40% chance to cripple an opponent after a successful special attack or combo ender is going to activate more like 80% of the time. Where this gear will be useful to us, though, will be in the overall health boost, because it adds a 600% max health boost at Fusion X. However, that is more of a boon to the bosses than to us. So when you see this equipped on a boss, you know you're in for a long fight. And finally, we come to arguably the coolest looking and best named piece of gear in the entire Sorcerer's Tower. I think the art team really outdid themselves on this one. If Jackie was responsible for the work, I have to say I'm very impressed. However, the utility of the gear for players, especially in this tower, I think isn't great. At base stats, it's only got a 20% resistance to snare. From there, you're only going to get a 15% chance to apply weaken to enemies affected by damage over time specifically, so they already have to be experiencing damage over time on Special 1. Even when fully fused, you're only going to have slightly better than a 50-50 chance to resist snare, and only a 35% chance to apply weaken to enemies affected by damage over time on Special 1. The characteristic at Max Fusion 2 isn't that great because you're applying Dispel and Regeneration for 7 seconds, but you can only get it on Special 2, which leads me to conclude that this is much more of a gear piece for the bosses in the tower than the players who obtain it. Basically, this is a boss escape and regeneration tool. For that reason, if you see a boss equipped with this gear at Max Fusion, beware that developers have it planned for them to escape and regenerate health on Special Attack 2. Also, be especially wary of characters that already have regeneration on their Special Attack 2 being equipped with this gear at Max Fusion. Specifically, two of our favorite characters come to mind, Strike Force Scorpion and Ravenous Melina. Given Ravenous Melina's passive, which increases her damage over time for her and her teammates, She would be a real threat in this tower, which already has gear multiplying and increasing damage against enemies suffering from damage over time. And that's a wrap for my rares video on Sorcerer's Tower. Sadly, they seem to have been crafted mostly with the bosses in mind. If you found this video helpful, please be sure to like, subscribe, and of course, share it with other players to warn them of what's coming in the Sorcerer's Tower. And keep an eye out for my Epics video coming soon. Thank you all for watching. I hope you found these tips and strategies helpful, and be sure to follow Man with No Game 45 on Twitter.